Do you know what I admire about my videos? It's the fact that my videos are real. They are pure, unadulterated, unbiased, no embellishments, not a whole lot of fancy backgrounds, sounds, music, and so on and so forth. Because I'm talking to real people. I'm real, so I'm talking to real people who can relate on a level that we all as real people relate on. From me to you and you back to me. You don't need all of the extra stuff. And I really admire and respect that on this particular platform. Nothing contrived. It's just me telling you how it really is and offering you the opportunity to respond to the subjects that I present here on YouTube. Now, this particular subject is about who defines us, who defines you. Do you know who defines you and who you are? Yes, I'm talking about you watching me right now. Who defines you? Who makes you who you are? Why are you who you are? Has someone made you the person that you are today? Be very careful how you answer that question. When I say made, I didn't say influence you. Made you. Are you happy where you are at this point in your life? When I was a child, very young, I can remember being very creative. I loved art, loved to draw. I could draw anything that I saw virtually. Teachers, animals, houses, and things of this sort. Coming up, watching cartoons, comic strips in the newspaper, and comic books and so forth. I could always draw. I loved doing that. So much so that I drew pictures for people in my school from an elementary age all the way up into high school. I just enjoyed doing that. But I seemed to gravitate away from that and get more into the physical arts and martial arts more specifically. But one thing I noticed about myself coming up from a very, very young age in school, elementary school that is, up until my teenage years and even adult years, was that I never hung out with groups of people uh, and allowed those people to influence me to be something that I wasn't. I was always my own person, in other words. I was always Reginald. When guys had a tendency to head towards mischief, I wouldn't follow that group. I did my own thing. When guys went to play basketball, if that's not something that I wanted to do at that particular time, I did what I wanted to do. When guys wanted to go off and play some other sport maybe, or engage in some activity that was going on, or go to a party or go to a concert, I didn't just simply jump on the bandwagon and go with them because I had my own choice at the time. And I had always, I don't know where I really got it from. I would venture to say it was probably close to maybe my mom or maybe my uncles being my own self. But let's just suffice it to say, I was just who I was. And I was not necessarily uh, impressed by everything someone done or did at that particular time and just followed it. I was not a follower per se. I had always really been someone that people looked up to. And I think to some degree, I probably was someone that people were intimidated by to a great degree because of my individuality, my being independent at such a young age. As a matter of fact, I was so independent that I carried a briefcase in elementary school. I did. I recall as a child walking to school, there were many families that lived on our street and streets adjacent to our street. And on my trek to and from school, people would throw garbage out. They'd clean out their basements and so forth. They would throw out good things. And this one particular time, I was going to school and I saw a briefcase. As a matter of fact, it was more than one. And I'm like, wait a minute. I could carry my books in that. comic books and things like this because I was always that type of person that was always organized. So I saw a briefcase. I knew what it was. It worked. It was in really, really good shape. Wasn't battered or anything. Someone just threw it out because they didn't want it. So I put my schoolwork, my books, my pencils, my pens, and everything in there because I wanted to have everything in one container, as it were. Back then, we didn't really carry book bags a lot, but we did have book bags. So I would be the only oddball in school carrying the briefcase. And I coined, or someone coined, the phrase professor. They would call me that sometime, or doctor, when they see me carrying this bag. And so throughout time, the briefcase wore out. But what I would notice as I was going to school, some of these families in the neighboring area, I guess they were maybe lawyers or doctors or what have you, they would continue to throw out things like briefcases again, over a period of time, years, as it were. And I'd pick up another briefcase and I'd come to school with it. And I carried this habit all the way from my younger childhood years up into adulthood. And when I got into retail and then I was in the military, guess what? I carried a briefcase. Always had a briefcase. So that began at a very young age. I was different than everyone else. And people would say, well, he thinks he's smart. No, I never thought I was smart. I just wanted more than where I was at the particular time in my life. I always wanted better. I always wanted to do better. And this was something on the inside of me that I didn't really know what I was searching for. Couldn't articulate what my purpose was in life, but I knew I had a purpose. And I was different. Didn't want to be the same as someone else. And I never thought about it as a child. I never sat down and pondered, why am I different than everybody else? No, I never thought about it like that. I was just simply who I was. And this carried over into every aspect of my life. In my relationships, I was still myself, who I was. I didn't allow the girls that I dated to influence who I was as a person. I still maintained who I was. Didn't allow the guys that I associated with as childhood friends change who I was. I was still Reginald. Still had my own likes and dislikes and my own passions. And I liked to wear certain types of clothing. And just because something was popular at the time, I didn't necessarily wear or buy clothing that someone else was wearing just because it was the in thing. I was always different. Even when guys got haircuts and they put parts in their head and that might have been the style, I didn't subscribe to that because it's not who I was. So there are many things that people pattern themselves after, and then they try and attempt to define themselves by those very things. Celebrities, for example, movie stars, rap stars, singers, television stars, whomever, people in politics, people try to define themselves by these individuals. They begin to dress the way some of these people dress. If they like rap stars, 2 Chainz, Eminem, some of the older rappers, maybe Ice-T, Ice Cube, and so forth. I don't know all of the rappers, Lil Wayne and so forth, but they model themselves after these people. They put the gold and the silver fake teeth in, and they get the tattoos, and they get their hair done in locks, or they get their hair cut all the way off, or they fade their hair, or they have the piercings and so on and so forth. They're trying to emulate all of these other people. But is it who they really are? Is it who you really are? Copying someone else. If there is a star who has a certain image, that's them. It's not you. And then there's people who pick up on fashion, the latest pants, the latest tops, the latest shoes, gym shoes, Air Force Ones, if you will, or Nikes and Jordans and whatever, Adidas. It can be any style shoe. Timberlands, it doesn't matter. They think because they wear a certain shoe or a shoe type or certain clothing or certain jeans, or the fact that it costs $400 or $500 for a pair of pants or an outfit, that defines them. This is what they believe. I've always believed in being me. I was content just wearing Levi's and sometimes Wranglers and sometimes Rustler jeans, the cheap jeans. But I was always neat. Especially after I was in the military, I became even more conscious of my appearance as it related to how I wore my clothing. And then there are those who are defined by their religion, holier than thou kind of mentality, or I belong to this congregation because it has 5,000 members, 2,000 members, maybe even 500 members. But you're coming to visit our church and you stick your chest out, I'm defined by this because we all believe in God and we have a church up on the hill and there's service every Sunday from 11 to 1 or whatever. So there are people who try to allow their so-called religious affiliation define them. That's not me. Never has been. I'm not religious. I don't believe in religions which were made by man. I am spiritual. I do believe in a creator and a God. And I believe in his son, Jesus, or Yeshua. And I follow spirituality. I don't follow religions because those are man-made. You can debate with this if you want to. That's your prerogative. But I'm just letting you know where I'm at. Now, there are some people who are defined by their homes, the house they live in, how big it is, how immaculate it is, what neighborhood it's in, and what type of car they drive. If it's a more modern car, if it's a recent model car, if it's 2019, 2020, even 2017 and 18, within 3 or 4 years coming off the assembly line, I'm driving the newest thing. Look at how clean it is. Look at the color. Look at the style, the shape, and so on and so forth. Look at all of the amenities. Some people are defined by that in their own mind. They define themselves by that. I'm driving down the street. I have my windows down. I'm cranking my music. The bass is humping and it's pumping and what have you. The car is rocking. I'm driving down the street. The people on the street, they're noticing me because they hear my music playing. Does that define you? Only in your own mind. It doesn't define me. The type of house I live in doesn't define me. It doesn't. Why? It's material. Can you wear a house? Can you put the house on? Can you put the car on? It's an extension of you. It says something about you. But does it really define you? Okay, some people are defined by friends and family. Oh, my family is well-to-do. My family has money. So you think that you fall particularly in that category. Maybe you don't have money and your family has money. But you define yourself by association. My doctor friend, for example, I have a friend that's a doctor and we talk all the time. Hey, he has this particular practice in 8 Hills or 7 Hills or in this particular neighborhood. And we're always having brunch together or lunch together or even going golfing together. And because you hang around certain types of people, even family members that you may have that are doing a lot better than you, you define yourself by who you are associated with or even family. My family doesn't define me. I've learned some things from my family coming up as a child. There are foundational things that I have gleaned and or grabbed hold of, and I've adopted those practices even and certain habits that are good for me, and they just simply have become a part of who I am. But those things in and of themselves don't define me. There are some people that believe that all of these exterior things define a man or define a woman. I believe that you have been misled. You can say that these things define you, and you could pretend that these are the things that make you who you are. But let me tell you something. This is the lesson, ladies and gentlemen, that you all should get right now. It's a hard one to swallow. When you are born, when we are all born, we come into this world gushing out of our mother's womb. We are naked. I don't care if you're born into poverty, you're born into a middle class family, if you're born into wealth, you are still naked. You're gonna die naked. You are. You might be in a funeral service lying there in a suit or a dress if you're a woman. Eventually those clothes are going to get old and they're going to wear away, and you're going to turn to ashes back to the earth from whence you come. We came into this world naked with nothing, and we are going to leave with nothing. So, regardless of your affiliation, church, family, friends, if you're a socialite, if you have a fraternity or sorority group that you're attached to, some sort of clubs and unions and so forth, recreational facilities, and you have just clubs that you belong to, regardless of who you are affiliated with, they don't define you. They really don't. Regardless of the fact that you might have money, a good paying job, or you have a spouse if you're in a marriage who has a good paying job, or because you live in a certain upscale neighborhood or gated community, or because you have a very nice home, or you're driving the most or the latest car or SUV, or that you go on vacation in very luxurious places every year. You can have the money to travel overseas and go on vacation to Italy, to Germany, maybe Jamaica, maybe to, I don't know, maybe to China, Japan, somewhere in Asia. You might have jewelry. You might watch celebrities on television and you're mimicking their lifestyle, or think you are, trying to fit in your neighborhood or in your group, your social setting. Regardless of all of those things that I have just mentioned, you can be standing here, sitting here with a pocket full of money, bank account brimming over, a nice 401 retirement, an IRA. It does not matter. If you take your clothes off, listen to me. If you take your clothes off and you stand in a full length mirror in your home, naked, and you look at that mirror and you see that image of yourself, that's who you are. You define you. You should be the one defining who you are. All of the outside influences, all of the materialistic things, the money, the cars, the vacations, the job, the house, the church, should never define you, because you can't take it anywhere with you. You know who defines me? I define me. I am who I am and who I choose to be, because I define me. Do you define yourself? Or does someone else define you, or something else? This is Brother Teacher. I hope you got the point. If this is who you are, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if you really know who you are, and if you have actually found your own purpose in life, and you have chosen to define yourself and not allow anything outside of you to define you. person, place, or thing. I'm out.